Welcome, welcome. How's everyone doing? Aw, I'm so excited for tonight. We got Abi Stumble. Oh, I gotta make sure I can see all your guys' faces somehow. Here, wow. Hi, guys. Wild. So wild. How's everyone's weeks? Good, Gucci? Okay, let's see if Abby's here. I think if someone's audio's on, if you can mute it. I'm not sure if I have a button to mute everyone's. Aw, Alex, thank you. Okay. Sorry, I was texting Abby. Okay. If you want to type in the chat one word that would describe your week. I love when we do this because we get to see how everyone's week has been in one word. Wow, guys. All right. Oh my gosh. Okay, Abby's here. Woo, 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 woo. I was looking for your face. I was like, is she here? Guys, we have our guest speaker, Abi Stumval, with us. Yay, Alexis is happy about it. All right, Abby, you can take it away. Are you able to unmute? There you go.
Unmute. Hello. Okay, fun. Here we go. I'm not speaking at this, though. I'm just doing coaching, right?
Yeah, you're just coaching with the questions. So whoever you want to pick.
Okay, great. Well, I was loving watching everybody's weeks. I was like, oh yeah, me too. Me too, girl. Me too. Me too. All of them were me too's. You know, the blah, the emotional, the overwhelming, the heavy-hearted, the scary, the exhausting, the happy, the normal, the whirlwind. I was like, if there was ever, I started my period today, so I had all of the emotions in 1 week. You guys know what that's like, where you're like, I didn't know you could feel every single one in 1 day. It's pretty impressive. Also, just as a side note, I had to get my pap smear today. And I think that it is unfair to have to get a pap smear while you're bleeding. Like I tried to get them to let me off the hook. Like I tried to get them to be like, hey, it's my period. I shouldn't come, right? And they're like, nope. And I thought, this shouldn't be a thing. Women have all kinds of weird things. You know, my gynecologist is a guy doctor. And I was thinking while he's rubbing my breasts, what got you into this job? Like as he's doing the breast exam and then the pelvic exam. And I was like, this is so weird. And he's like very robotic and like he's like teaching things. He's, you know, like you need to make sure that you go up to this peak and then make sure the nodules need to be soft, not hard. It was like, and I just thought, what a weird thing it is to be women. I just like being validated. So I thought I'd share that with 500 of you. Just kidding. How many of you guys have a guy gynecologist? Let's see. How many of you? How many of you are like, freak, no, I would never do that. I would never. Oh, you don't like female gynos? Never, nope. I always have to wait 3 months for female. That's the truth. Very nope. I love people's personalities. I used to, but now would never go back. Yeah, I've had girls and guys. I feel like they're both kind of the same. Hell to the nizzo. No male guns here. That's funny. Okay, so let's start. I'd love to pray. I'd love to start with that and just open this time up. I felt a couple things specifically for the girls on the call today, so I'll probably hit those throughout the night as we go along. But let's just close our eyes so that if I wanted to, I could pick my nose and neither of you would know. Some of you thought that was funny and some of you were just like, she's weird. She's quirky. I guess I should introduce myself. I'll go ahead and open your eyes. I like to make it interactive so you can't get sleepy yet. My name's Abby Stumball. I've been a life coach for 12 years. Me and my husband started life consulting. I guess I'm a life consultant. We started life consulting 12 years ago by accident. It's just that we were so broken and so screwed up. We had to figure out a way to make it through it. And it was like heal or divorce. We weren't at divorce. Like, I didn't think that back then. But looking back, we can be like, yeah, if we didn't heal, we wouldn't have made it. But, and so we started going on the journey of health. I'd been on the emotional health journey since I was a kid. My mom sent me to counseling when I was 12. She's like, we're screwing you up. I don't know how to help you with that, except here's a counselor. Dear God, let it make up for all the things we're doing wrong. So I think that was kind of her. So I've been on the emotional health journey for years. When I got married, we did deep dives into the healing process. We ended up, as we were going on the journey, we could take people along the journey with us. And so we just started doing that with our friends. They'd have conversations, they'd do healing, they'd feel life change. So one of the girls that we were around went home one day. She lived in Texas. She was in California, but she lived in Texas. She visited where her parents were. And her spiritual parents were like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're changing for the better in all of the ways we've been praying for years. What's happening? And she's like, oh my gosh, I've been friends with these people and we're working through my stuff. And they're like, you need to pay them. You need to pay them. That's what they should be doing with their lives. And so she came back and she's like, I want to pay you. And we thought that was a funny idea, but we were nice. And so we're like, okay. And so she started meeting with us. And once we started meeting with her all of the time, like consistently, her whole life changed. All of her friends were like, what is going on? Where can we do that? So then they started coming and wanting to meet with us. And we weren't trying to start a business, but eventually we said, okay, I guess. And then word of mouth spread. And then it grew so fast because people were having such dramatic breakthroughs, which is a great problem to have. So it grew so fast. We started having like years long waiting lists. I had like at one point had like a 3-year long waiting list. And so we started training other people to be consultants to do what we do. And that's more of what I do now, because I think the more people we can empower to heal the world, the more people can be healed. So me and my husband have been married 12 years. I'm madly in love with him. And our marriage has been wonderful and healed me. And it has been hard and broke me. And that's just what marriage is. And I have so much hope for single women. It's one of the things I'm most passionate about because I was so screwed up. And I think if I could get married, anybody can. And I think if I could be so screwed up and meet someone else who was so screwed up and we could get unscrewed up together, then there really is hope in the world. So I just want to start with that. Like if you're in there and you're like, I've got issues. Yeah, I got them too. And I still got some. And issues never discount you for marriage. And some of us know, like, here's the truth. Even if Justin died, I'd still probably attract another guy who has lots of issues because that's just how life is. We're all kind of human. And so I have a lot of hope for everybody in this meeting that you, that there's goodness for you and you can find love and life and you can get healing on the way. And I love people who prepare. Like all of the preparation work me and Justin did before getting married was vital. So what you're doing now is so important. And also, it's never a prerequisite requirement. Like, I think a lot of people who start going on the emotional health journey start feeling like, oh no, I have to be perfect. I have to get all the way through this issue before I can meet a guy or before it'll work out. And obviously, that just isn't true. Not true at all. So, that is my hope for all of you. And thank you so much to Hannah, who loves my top. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now that you know a little tiny bit about me, I'm screwed up. You're screwed up. We're all screwed up together. We're going to have a fun night. Let's close our eyes. Jesus, we just thank you so much for your presence. We invite your love and your power to come and unlock our hearts. We invite your goodness to come and fill the places where we can't see you yet. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear the voice of love, the sound of love, past what we've experienced from our mom and our dad and authorities, and past what we experienced from our ex-boyfriends, and past what we've experienced from our friends. God, that your love would come rushing in, that we would experience a love that is deeper and more real and more tangible than all of the love that we've encountered in our lifetime. God, we ask that your presence would unlock our hearts, would unlock the places where we're trapped in shame or blame or fear. God, for every woman who's had an emotional week, we just release peace right now. We release peace over every place where there's been a storm. We release peace over every place where there's been pain, where there's been triggers, where there's been confusion. God, I ask that you would come and that you'd breathe hope into women's hearts, that as they're looking at all of their crap and all of their triggers and all of their dysfunctions, that there'd be so much hope and joy on the process, that they would feel so connected to you, and they would feel so connected to there being hope for love in the future. So, Jesus, we just invite you to be all that you are as healer, restorer, redeemer, friend, counselor. Come and counsel us. And so I want you guys to just put your hands on your heart. And I'm just going to start by speaking to your heart, and then I'm going to ask it a few questions. So, heart, you are so worthy of time and attention. You're worthy of connection. You're worthy of safety. You're worthy of protection. You're worthy of being seen and heard and known. Heart, I want you to have space so that you can actually feel what you want to feel and share what you want to share. So I want you to just ask your heart, is there anything that you need to tell me about what's going on inside of you? If you hear something, I just want you to nod your head. Okay. I want you to say, heart, is there anything that you want to be able to talk to God about that's going on inside of you right now? And then I want you to just take a minute and tell Jesus any of the feelings that are going on inside of you. I feel scared. I feel overwhelmed. Anything that you're hearing your heart say, I need help. I need connection. I need to feel pursued by you. I just want you to take a moment to just share with God any of the things that are going on inside of you. And then I just want you to ask God, I want you to ask God what He loves about you right now in this moment. And I want you to ask Him to tell you another thing that He loves about you in this moment. And I want you to ask Him for another thing that He loves about you in this moment. Okay, go ahead and open your eyes. And I'd love for you to just write in the chat something that you felt like God said He loved about you in the moment, in this moment. This is one of the things that I work on the most is asking God what He likes about me in pretty much any moment that I can think of. Because the more we get connected to what He's thinking about us in the good sense over and over again, the more empowered we are. Oh, I love these. I told him he was scared and he said he loved my, I don't know, it just flew up. I told him I was scared. I don't know now where it is. I'm his baby, beautiful and brilliant. My sense of humor. I love that. Okay, wonderful. Well, let's jump in, shall we? I think I want to start with if you are struggling with hopelessness about finding somebody. I know it's going to be real specific. If that's you, if you're struggling with hopelessness about finding somebody, could you raise your hand? Hold on, I got to see how I move this screen. Give me a second. So sorry. Keep your hand up for a second. Can I switch? Oh, there's the screen button. Okay, it's been covered up by my chat. Okay, I just had my pickiest girlfriend find a guy who's literally it could not be more perfect for him, for her. She's a girl, he's a him. And they just fit together in so many great ways. And she's been probably single for the last 7 years, but has really been engaging God on this process. And so I feel so much hope for people about it's not that she found the one, she just found somebody that was a really, really good fit. So I just want to pray over all of the people. I remember feeling so hopeless when I was in the dating process. Like, is there ever going to be a guy that fits with me? Is there ever going to be somebody who loves me really well? Is there ever going to be somebody who's a good connection? Am I ever going to meet somebody? How am I going to find them? Does God care? All that stuff. So I'm just going to pray over all y'all real quick. So Holy Spirit, we invite the power of your hope, that people would feel brave enough to hope for a good love story, that people would feel hope enough to hope for a good love story, that every place where hope deferred, every place where I can see some of your brains are gathering evidence, like, but I haven't met this type of person, or this has never happened yet, or all of the people that you know that haven't gone through that. And I just feel like we can build a case against hope. And so I just release all of the places that your case against hope has been in the way. And we ask, God, that you'd begin to make a case for love and a case for faithfulness and a case for goodness. In Jesus' name, would you begin to remind people to not lose heart, to not lose hope, and that there are people out there that will get them. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so let's pull someone up. Shall we? Let's do this. Let's start with Rebecca Leland. Are you here?
Yes. I'm actually in the car, so sorry it looks like I'm a ghost because it's dark and I'm
You are so wait. I'm so sorry. Taylor, do you do housekeeping first before I do this?
Oh, yeah, if you want me to. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So
go ahead. Feel free. Then Rebecca, we will come back to you, I promise.
Sounds good. Yeah, all that is that any of the new women, we just want to say welcome. If this is your first time, welcome. And then basically whenever Abby is coaching.
Wait, if they're new, can you have them do like a shout out in the chat?
Sure, yeah. If you're new, pop it on in the chat and say, I'm new. Or this is my first time. We'd love to see your faces and your names. Aww. Oh my gosh, I forget how many new people come in every week. Wow, guys.
Wow. So many.
That's beautiful. Love it, love it. Yes. They're still coming in. That is crazy pants, guys. To be honest, that's super hopeful for me every time I see all the new people. And the Melly. Okay, and then whenever we're coaching, whenever Abby's coaching the people, like if for Rebecca, everyone on this call, it's for you too. So if it resonates, take it for your heart. And yeah, that's about it. That's all I got.
Great. Okay. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Okay. Rebecca, you ready for this?
I hope so.
I'm gonna read your question that you sent in, and then we're gonna ask you.
Okay.
Questions. Okay. Your question is, how do I stop making big life decisions so high stakes? Some background is you're noticing that your conservative Christianity legalism may have contributed to a conditional love mindset with God, making things high stakes. Yeah. So do you want to give us a little more information around that?
Yes, I feel like there's so much I could share, so I'll try to um, keep it to some main things. But basically, I've been trying to figure out, how do I ask a question around some of this. My whole life, I've just been really, I don't know how to phrase this. It's been really important to me to honor God with my life, and especially with like my dating life. And so at a very young age, I was just like, I want to do this right, quote unquote. And my mom, my parents are both Christians, and they are wonderful people. Um, but ever since I was really young, like probably 12, I remember being so concerned that I wanted to do this really well because I wanted God's best for me. And I'm probably going to cry a lot because this is just like so huge on my heart. Um, but I just remember like devoting this whole area of life to God at like age 12, and like reading all the books that I'm supposed to read because my mom had been divorced and she had been through a lot of relational pain and she didn't want me to go through any of that. So I like diligently did all the things. I was in like the youth group, and you know, a lot of you ladies probably know this book I'm going to mention, but there's a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye.
Oh,
And I read
me
the
too.
book. Yeah, I read the book. I read some other books because my mom was like pleading me to do this stuff. So I did. Long story short, I felt like I followed all the rules, and I really do think God protected me from some situations that could have been painful or bad. But I didn't have a serious boyfriend until like 23. I like was not pursued in high school or college. I went to a Christian college. I was kind of I was always very outgoing. I did lots of stuff. I was very successful in sports and school and music. And for a long time I was just like, I don't need you guys because you're lame and I know the kind of guy that I want. But I just never found one. And I thought, oh, okay, God's like protecting me. He's saved, whatever. Trying to have a lot of faith. Um, so anyway, I had my first serious relationship at 23, and I just kind of knew like this isn't right. And there were some other areas that I just knew like weren't right. So I broke up with him. And then I was single for 8 years. And that was very hard. I dated, I met guys that did the online dating thing for like 8 years, 7 years. Very disappointed with that experience. Um, I tried like all the things. I was trying to be active and putting myself out there. I just went through major roller coasters of like, I have faith in you, God, and it's okay. I can I can focus on other blessings, other areas of life because you're good to me. And trying to pretend that it wasn't important to me to get married, trying to pretend that I didn't really care about having a ministry with my husband someday, or like all the big dreams that we have. And then I'd go into like depression about it, and then I'd try to pull myself out. So it was just like that for a long time. But then I developed some mindsets about God's goodness that I really struggled with. And so going back to kind of the legalism Christianity thing, my mom was a perfectionist, and I saw that a lot. She struggled with anxiety a lot when I was younger too. Um, but I feel like I just picked up, based on comments and observations, that she very much kind of taught me, you need to do a good job, or make really good choices to ensure you get God's best. And we wouldn't want you to not get God's best. And so then I was just like afraid that like, what if I won't find or get God's best somehow? Um, and then just feeling like, God, I don't know what else to do to make sure I'm on the right path. And I'm just like in a season that I'm just older than I ever thought I would be. And then it just has caused this fear, kind of this paralyzation. I'm dating a guy right now, but um, it just hasn't felt like I thought it would feel. And so things that, again, people more from my parents' generation are like, oh, you really know when this, and this sorts of things happen, or you feel these ways. And I just haven't had all that like confirmation. And then I feel like I'm paralyzed because I'm so afraid of letting go of what I have. But I'm also worried that, like, well, I don't want to just move into marriage. I just feel like I'm kind of in a frozen state, and I'm scared. Feel like fear has just controlled me for a long time.
Yeah. Can you tell me can you give me a short summary of what your dad was like?
Yeah. Strong Christian, very much a leader. I had a good relationship with him. He's extremely hardworking. He's a farmer.
Did it feel easy to get connection with him?
Yeah. He was very busy though. So he would be gone a lot, and I love being with him. I craved time with him, but I felt like as a middle child, I felt like I needed to work hard to get his attention or to keep it.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been pondering that for like a long time.
Did you feel like he pursued you and knew you and understood you?
I would say yes, sometimes, but I craved it more. Like when I did really well in sports, I was a successful athlete in high school and college, and that was like his language. My dad was a really he was just a really good athlete himself, and so we connected through athletics a lot. And so that was our connection point. And he was a coach too, and so he would shoot baskets with me all the time. He would help me, coach me in like my softball pitching or in running, and so that led to more connection. But I felt like I needed to, like, I wanted to do really well to make sure that I would receive love, even though he would tell me like, oh, you don't have to win all the games, you don't have to be the highest scorer for me to love you. But I felt like I needed to still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of compassion for you. I think that your story is really relatable. I think there's probably how many of you out there relates to the belief that you're scared of making the wrong decision, or you feel like you need to do everything right in order to get God's best? Just put your hands up if that's you. Yeah. Very, very common. So I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone in that. When I'm listening to you, I'm hearing a couple things that are highlighted. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the version your mom gave to you of God is more of a witchcraft version of God than what he's like. Because witchcraft is control, which is I do something for you and then you respond because I controlled you into doing it. And I think a lot of people have the mentality of, or like the other way we could describe it is slot machine God. Like I go in, or like, have you guys seen like the candy machines, and you put $1 in and then it gives you your Reese's peanut butter cups out? Like that's what she taught you. And I can hear that she had a lot of fear from pain.
Mm-hmm.
She had a lot of pain and she was afraid of her pain. And so she made up in her mind what would have saved her from pain, which is that if you follow God and do everything right, then you won't have to go through this pain. But the truth is that that's not even wrong. I mean, that's not even accurate. There's no way. Nobody avoids pain in marriage. And we don't pick wrong because we didn't pick the right person. We always pick who feels familiar to us. We always pick more like it's telling us about what's going on inside of us. It's not like if you hear God. I mean, I know a million people who heard God right and then the marriage was horrible. So I think everybody who's a Christian so a lot of us in Christianity are trying to get out of pain.
Yeah.
And so we think if you follow God and you follow all the rules and you do everything right and you don't do anything wrong, he will give you something good, which is a slot machine God. If I give you $1, you will give me a husband. If I don't date anybody wrong, or if I follow all the rules, then you will give me the right husband and it won't hurt and there'll be no pain. And the truth is that we're always going to find somebody that causes us some pain because every human's broken. So I'm sure that doesn't help you, but it is the beginning process of breaking down our vision of God is that I'm not following him so that my life will be perfect. Like I often think about like if you can't use the theology you have inside of slavery, so like when there were so many African Americans who were following God but they were slaves, like is there a way to still be related to God even if he's not fixing everything in that moment? Like can we actually love a God not because he does everything right? Like to me, God is comfort and he is so that we're not alone. He's not the promise that we'll never go through pain or loss. So anyway, I want to break it down because everybody subconsciously has this belief. If I do everything right, God will protect me from pain. And it's the wrong reason to follow God. The kindness of God, that we're made so that we can heal when we're not alone. We're made so that when we go through hard things, comfort can actually put us back together. We're actually made in a way that his very presence is the antidote to the pain in the world, but it's not that his presence comes and gives us something like your control is your mom wanted a set thing to happen to make sure the outcome would be okay. And I've never seen it, not once in marriage. God has literally like come down like an angel and said, you should marry this person. And they still have horrible marriages. So I just want to, again, remind people that it is not about this perfection thing. And it's hard if like I married my husband and I felt God's involvement so much. And then we got married and my husband had rage. So it's like, well, if you think that like you need God's best, and then what do you do with that? Like God wanted me to marry somebody who had rage. Like that gets very complicated if you think so. Anyway, this is the theological part. I am going to get to your heart stuff. I'm just wanting to
Good.
I've seen so many women wait for the one or try to get who the idea of what God says is going to be. And I mean, listen, I'm a big fan in listening to the no. If God says no on somebody, listen to that. Like, that's how I kind of operated in dating. I'm like, I don't want a yes because I want to be a part of choosing who I marry. But I want the no's. So tell me who I shouldn't marry. I want to obey you enough. So give me the no's so that I can have the right yeses. So that's just a side note I gotta fix my screen. I'm so sorry. So that's the first thing. God is a God that we can count on for comfort. We can count on his involvement. We can count on him speaking to us. We can count on his nearness. We can count on his faithfulness. We can't count on everything being easy and pain-free just because we live in a world with suffering. And so it gets really hard for people to figure out how to trust that, but he is very trustworthy without us being able to guarantee how everything will work. But the two things that I hear is, so the heart would be the avoidance of pain and the fear of marriage. So do you have a fear of marriage?
I have a fear that I'm going to be trapped in something I really don't want.
Okay, and why is that?
I don't know if I'm totally sure. But I think it's always that I've kind of believed that God somehow won't have someone that feels really wonderful. And so I'll just feel like I need to choose, and then I'll feel disappointed. There's like been a fear of that I'll be disappointed. And even as I'm saying that, I know that that's kind of silly, because nobody's perfect and you will always be disappointed in something.
Really?
Like, I know that, but yet that feeling is like scary to me.
So it sounds like your mom was powerless to men. Does that feel true to you? Did she know how to create a marriage that she loved with her partner?
I mean, I feel like she's been happy. Yeah, but I mean, she went through a pretty and just traumatic, sad situation in her first marriage. So I guess I don't know how to answer that.
Are you
Like, she and my dad
afraid?
seemed happy. But
Are you afraid of going through what she went? Do you believe like she made the wrong choice and now she's with the right guy?
That's a good question. Maybe. I know. I mean, going back to your question before that one, if my mom has made a marriage that she loves, like, growing up, there was a lot of pain in our home because I have a half brother, and my dad was angry a lot with him, and I just remember seeing a lot of that, and just wanting to make it better. And so that kind of leads us into a whole another area. But yeah, I don't know if that helps at all.
Okay. What is it that you think God wants from you?
I mean, right away, without me like rationalizing it, like, the immediate answer was like to be a really good girl, or to like do, yeah. And I feel like so sad saying that, or to like please him.
Yeah. Why don't you put your hand on your heart? Precious girl, I'm so sorry that you've had to be perfect for so long. I see how much turmoil and how exhausting it's been. And I see this like picture of you on the inside, like on a hamster wheel, and you're like, I'm trying to do everything right. I'm trying to do everything right. I'm trying to be who I'm supposed to be. And I see this long time of you just wanting to make him happy, but thinking that he isn't already happy with you. And I'm so sorry for every place where your dad didn't know how to delight in you or didn't have the time to pull you in close and love on you and be involved in your world. And I'm so sorry for every place that you learned to connect to him when you were doing what he wanted, and where it wasn't like there was grace and kindness jumping into your world. I'm really sorry for how hard it's been to be following a God that you feel like is never happy with you. and is never pleasable. If you're out there and you relate, you can close your eyes and you can go on this heart process with her. But I'm so sorry for how much pain you have of feeling constantly like God's unsatisfied or like he just wants a little bit more from you. I'm so sorry for every place that you sacrificed everything that you have for him, and then it feels like he still doesn't think it's enough. I'm so sorry for how tiring that cycle is of feeling like you can perform for a really long time and then you just get hopeless and you're like, and you quit. And then you can perform for a really long time and then you get hopeless. I actually see it like an anxious attachment style where you're like, oh, I'll try to connect to God through doing everything he wants. Oh, I'm not feeling this connection. So now I'm going to pull away and be really sad. And maybe then he'll come. Maybe then he'll come meet me there if he sees how much it hurts me. What are you thinking or feeling?
That I just feel like I was trying to get God's attention, that I can relate to the trying really hard to make sure he's pleased with me so that he wants to give me good things.
Yeah. Does it feel like he's withholding good things from you?
Yeah.
Until you figure it out?
Yeah, or until I somehow achieve a level to deserve the things, or that I somehow stop like wanting the other things enough and want him more, so that he's like, okay, now you can have it because you actually really want me more than those things. So even though I know that's twisted because God plants desires in our hearts, like I know that's true, or like gives us interests and like desires to be married, desires to have kids, you know. Yeah, but it's like a fight to get him to like notice or be pleased enough is like the feeling.
So tell me how that is similar to your dad.
Yeah, I think it's very similar, that I, with my dad, like I knew he loved me, but I felt like his time was so limited that I wanted to do a really good job so that he was so happy. So I felt a lot of affection from him to make sure he was proud of me, even though he told me he would be even if I didn't do these things. But I was like, but I know you for sure will be if I get all A's all the time. If I always win everything, or whatever the things are.
You're like, I just want to know that love is stable. I want to know that I'm safe in love. I want to know that I'm
Yeah.
going to be believed in and that he's going to like me.
Yeah. And I think because of that, like I was so terrified to not do well because I was afraid I couldn't keep it.
Yeah.
Or that I was so afraid of being alone. And
yeah.
I can really relate. I've asked in previous calls, I've asked God to help me understand that more. And sometimes I just get pictures of me as a little girl, like being by myself a lot, because I just comforted myself a lot alone. So I think that's
okay.
Very helpful.
Okay, close your eyes. Have you seen Spencer do calls before?
Yeah.
Does he feel like a safe man to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to close your eyes and I want you to see yourself as a little girl who's all by herself trying to comfort herself. And can you tell me what age she is?
4 or 5.
So young to be alone. So I want you to see that little girl And I want you to see Spencer, as like adult Spencer, come and sit next to 4-year-old Rebecca. And I want you to see him get on, like sit down on your level and grab you and pull you into his shoulder to hug you. And I want you to see him look at you and say, "What are you doing here alone?" And I want you to see him be like, "Hey, you don't have to be alone. I'm so sorry for how crazy everything feels in your family. I'm so sorry for how out of control things feel. I want you to imagine him saying, you're not bad, and you don't have to be perfect to make up for the chaos that's going on. I know that everything else feels out of control." And I want you to see him ask, do you feel like if you're really good, that you won't be a burden? And do you feel like
Yes.
your parents will love you more if you do everything right? And do you feel like, what do you feel like will happen in your family if you're not perfect?
That they'll kind of forget about me because I'm not helping make things better,
Hmm.
or that if I'm not perfect, then they won't be happier, and then I won't receive love,
Hmm.
and I'll just feel neglected.
Hmm. Does that feel like what it's like with God? That if you aren't what he wants you to do, that he'll forget about bringing you a husband?
Yeah.
That he'll neglect this desire for you?
Yeah, that I somehow, if I can't ensure that I have his attention, that he'll kind of forget about me. Like the picture that I often feel is that God is like over there and he kind of sees me out of the corner of his eye and he knows where I am, but that I don't know if he's like very, I don't know if he like really sees me or is really invested.
Totally. So I went, have you seen The Chosen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to see you sitting next to Spencer, your little 4-year-old girl. And I want you to imagine Jesus from The Chosen coming up to both you and Spencer. And I want you to see Jesus grabbing your face in both of his hands and looking in your eyes and saying, I'm so sorry you felt so alone for so long. I'm so sorry you felt so scared for so long. I'm so sorry you felt so neglected for so long. I'm so sorry you thought I was distant and disconnected. I'm so sorry you thought I was busy or needed you to be more or do more. I'm so sorry you thought that I was far away. And I just see him being like, I love looking in your eyes. I love being close to you. I love how you smell. I love how you feel. I love being with you. I'm so sorry that you thought that I was really busy. And I want you to see him sitting there being like, I want to crawl into your aloneness with you. I want to sit in this moment with you. I don't want you to have to comfort yourself. I want to comfort you. I want to comfort you not because you're doing everything right, not because you're not a burden, not because you can perform the best. I just want to be with you. I don't care if you get all of the right answers. I don't care if you do all of the right things. If you do all of the wrong things, if you If you shoot a goal on the opposite basket of your team, I'll just come laugh with you and play with you. I want you to imagine him sitting next to you and him pulling you in to his chest and saying, figuring out the most perfect guy for you is so much pressure. I don't want it to feel so high stakes. I'm not trying to get you to go on a scavenger hunt to hear my voice to figure out if it's the right or the wrong. I just want to be with you in the discovery process. I want to hear what you think about the guys you're dating. I want to understand what you end up learning about yourself when you're around them. I want to see the triggers that you have and the things that you're drawn to and the things that you don't like. And I just hear him saying, I'm so sorry for all the disappointment that you're carrying. I see the disappointment. I see that you thought that if you followed everything right, that it would work out differently. And I'm so sorry. I see this huge wave of grief inside of your heart, this huge wave of disappointment. And I just feel like he's like, I love you and I don't want you having to carry this disappointment. It's heartbreaking. I haven't forgotten you and I haven't abandoned you. And I know it doesn't look like what you thought. And I'm so sorry. But I actually care about your heart. I care about your desires. I care about the pain that you've been in. I've been in every step of this pain with you. There's not a day that you've been depressed about it not looking the way you thought it was, that I wasn't there with you. I don't want your heart to have to be lost in the grief. I want you to be able to grieve, though. You're right. It didn't happen the way you thought it would. That's sad. It's hard to change expectations. It's sad when we think things will be one way and then they're not. And I just hear him being like, but you're so secure and my love for you has not faltered or wavered. And I know you can't understand in your human mind on the human planet about my goodness or where I am, but I'm with you. What are you thinking or feeling?
I just feel the comfort of kind of releasing some of that pain, because Jesus is holding me.
Yeah.
And that he understands and that he's like really active in that with me.
Yeah. I want you to imagine him being like, baby girl, I get expectations.
Yeah.
Everybody thought I was going to show up differently when I came.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that you just want to feel safe and secure and seen. And I'm sorry for the places you were disappointed with your dad or connection with dad and that things didn't get validated there. And I'm sorry that you haven't gotten to feel seen and loved. But I'm not like that. So I'm going to have you repeat after me. I'm going to have you say, perfection.
Perfection.
You're a liar.
You're a liar.
You tell me
You tell me
that if I'm best friends with you,
that if I'm best friends with you,
and if I follow all of your rules,
and if I follow all of your rules,
you'll give me what I want.
you'll give me what I want.
That's control. Say it. That's control.
That's control.
That's like witchcraft.
That's like witchcraft.
I don't want to be doing that.
I don't want to be doing that.
Perfection, you lied to me.
Perfection, you lied to me.
And you told me I have control over my future.
And you told me I have control over my future.
But I don't.
But I don't.
I cannot make God give me good things.
I cannot make God give me good things.
But he wants to be with me.
But he wants to be with me.
And he wants to hold me.
And he wants to hold me.
And he wants to be involved.
And he wants to be involved.
Control and perfectionism.
Control and perfectionism.
I'm going to break up with you.
I'm going to break up with you.
And I'm going to invite compassion.
And I'm going to invite compassion.
And patience to be my friends.
And patience to be my friends.
Instead of you.
Instead of you.
Control and perfectionism.
Control and perfectionism.
You keep me always feeling like I'm failing.
You keep me always feeling like I'm failing.
And you keep showing me a fantasy.
And you keep showing me a fantasy.
That I can get what I want.
That I can get what I want.
By using your methods.
By using your methods.
But the fantasy is false.
But the fantasy is false.
I break the lie.
I break the lie.
Listen, if you're in your own room and you need to say this out loud, you say this out loud too to everybody else. Sorry, I'm going to make you do it again. I break the lie.
I break the lie.
That if I do all the right things.
That if I do all the right things.
Then I'll get a husband.
Then I'll get a husband.
I break the lie.
I break the lie.
That if I'm happy being single.
That if I'm happy being single.
Then I'll get a husband.
Then I'll get a husband.
I break the lie.
I break the lie.
That if I do everything right.
That if I do everything right.
Dating will be easy.
Dating will be easy.
The truth is.
The truth is.
Dating is a gift.
Dating is a gift.
To help me learn about myself.
To help me learn about myself.
And to help me heal.
And to help me heal.
Amen.
Amen.
So I want you to, your homework is to change your goal in dating. So right now it's like, is he the right guy? Is he not the right guy? And my goal for you would be to change it to, what can I learn about myself and how can I grow while I'm doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because if there's patience, it's like, it's okay if I don't know yet if I want to marry him or not. I don't have to figure out if he's the right one or not. I can allow this process to be something for me that helps me learn and grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if I end up marrying him, great. And if I don't end up, great. But I'm going to find out as this goes on, because I'm going to get more in tune with my triggers. I'm going to get more in tune with what I want. I'm going to practice having a voice with this guy. I'm going to practice, like, whatever it is, so that you can learn about yourself and grow, not so that you can figure out. If the goal is figuring out if their marriage material is too high stakes. I did that with my husband. I tried, and God was like, God literally said, stop it. Stop trying to figure out if you can marry him. God said, you're trying to love him conditionally. Conditional love says if you marry him, he's worth your time and energy. And he's like, I want you to unconditionally love him, which means I'm going to love you whether I marry you or not. And it's not that I love you like I'm in love with you, but I'm going to learn how to care for a human and be cared for by that human. Whether or not it ends in marriage is not my goal. My goal is to learn to be good at loving and to learn to allow someone to love me. and to learn how to have boundaries and to learn how to have a voice. And in that case, then dating is much lower stakes, but you will find out what you want.
Yeah, that's really good.
So that would be your homework to me.
Yeah.
The other thing
That's
is
really good.
to grieve out anytime you have the like it feels like you white knuckle it when you have a fantasy that God's going to give you this magical thing, and then you crash into your depression. And so I want you, when you're white knuckling it, to be like, the fantasy isn't real. This isn't the way to get what I want. And then when you're crashing, to be like, the fantasy wasn't real. Perfection will never get me what I want.
Yeah. Why do we feel like it will?
I think it feels nice to feel like we have security in something.
Yeah.
Other than God.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fantasy is what we do to avoid pain. So the better you get at being like I'll tell you, in my own personal life, I did this with healing, where I like had a constant fantasy that I was just going to get miraculously healed. And I would like feel really good about it, have lots of faith, do all the right things, and then hit this wall. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, God doesn't care about me at all. He's never going to come through. And it was like faith, depression, anxiety, faith, depression. Yeah. And so what I learned to do is I learned that the fantasy, the good feeling part, was as bad as the bad feeling part. I was like, this is not real. So I had to let go. Like, if God never heals me, how can I love him and be loved without like needing it to look that way? And there's been things I had to grieve along the way. Like, oh, it's disappointing I wasn't healed for this long. Oh, I thought I'd be healed. I'd be able to do this. So I just got good at grieving and then allowing God's love in instead of holding him hostage.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Okay. If you, anyone out there who wants to, why don't you shoot out something that connected for you during that? And then I'm going to jump into this one question. Thank you so much, Rebecca. You did great.
Thank you.
So gorgeous.
Thank you so much, Abby.
Yeah. I'm going to jump into this question. Then how do you decide to marry them if you're always trying to love unconditionally? I'm not trying to love unconditionally as in like, I will never have a problem with your behavior. Like, my goal is to figure out if I'm going to marry you or not. That's still the goal in dating, but it's not the reason it's not the sole purpose of why I'm dating you. I'm also dating you to learn to love someone. And so like part of me learning to love somebody might be like, oh, I don't like the way they're talking to me. I need to have a voice with them about how they're talking to me. That's part of loving somebody, is being good at communicating and being good at sharing your feelings. So it's not, I don't mean unconditionally, like you don't have any standards or boundaries. The more you're around somebody, you should find out, like, are they triggering me? Do they handle conflict well? Are they kind? Are they present? Like, I'm looking for all those things. It's just that I am fine with the process to find out what I think about someone instead of needing to know if it's the right thing or God's thing in the beginning. Like, you'll always figure out eventually. You'll either be like, oh, it's been 3 years and I still don't know if I want to marry them. If I've worked through my issues and I've gone to counseling for it, then I can say, maybe I just don't want to marry him. Very rarely do people get to 3 years in that spot. They normally they end up finding out they love them or they don't want to be with them. Oh, 28 new messages. Okay. All right. Great job, Rebecca. Now we're going to ask the next person. Yes, I will say everybody that like, there is no, if you do this right and then this right, then it will create what you want. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Give me the no's so I can have the right yeses. Great. That's great. Okay. Here we go. I'm trying to find it. We're going to go to Jacqueline Van Heerden.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello?
Hello. Oh, I've done this with you before.
Yeah.
Look at that. You just keep asking the right questions, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay, let me read your question a little bit. You've had chronic sickness most of your life and feel at your lowest point right now. You're suspecting that your subconscious belief is that if you're sick, then you're loved. And you feel it. So tell me about that.
So I've struggled with extreme fatigue. I've had multiple concussions. I believe a part of that was, I just wanted love and attention. So my last concussion was a year and some ago, and I've just been I can't get out of it. It just seems like I just go deeper and deeper. And I'm a psychologist, and I'm actually at the point where I can only see 3-4 clients a week as my max capacity. So I've been realizing, I'm suspecting that there's something there underneath the surface. And I remembered you had said it in one of your podcasts, and it stuck out to me, and I was like, yeah, I think that's actually going on underneath, because it was the only time I got attention as a kid. And so I'm kind of like, okay, now what do I do with this? Now where do I go with this? How do I move?
Well,
how do I deal with that?
I'm going to give you a very logical answer, then we'll kind of go into it. But for me, this is always just the pain process. Once you recognize there's a belief, the first thing is validating the pain of that. So like, I'm so sorry that you always got attention for being sick and that was a safe place for you. And I think for you getting to grieve, like, oh, it's painful that this was one of the areas I got loved. Like, and that I didn't have enough love in other areas that it made this appealing. You know, like the actual, like, I had to grieve, like, oh, it makes sense why sickness was helpful, because in my family, my mom was sick and my dad was nicer. So I learned it. So the first part was compassion for myself. Like, heart, of course, there's parts of you that learned sickness. You learned it because it was the way to survive in your house. It was the way to get your needs met. It was the way to, so let's just start there. I'm going to have you close your eyes, put your hand on your heart. And you're just going to say, heart.
Heart.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
For how lonely you felt in childhood.
For how lonely you felt in childhood.
For how much you wanted comfort and connection.
For how much you wanted comfort and connection.
And I'm so sorry.
And I'm so sorry.
But the only way you knew to get it.
That the only way you knew to get it.
Or like one of the ways, I guess I should say. One of the ways you learned to get it.
One of the ways you learned to get it.
Was from being sick.
Was from being sick.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
There was such a deficit in comfort and care.
That there was such a deficit in comfort and care.
That you would feel like this.
That you would feel like this.
It makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
That being sick feels like your needs will get met.
That being sick feels like your needs will get met.
Every little girl.
Every little girl.
Wants to find ways.
Wants to find ways.
To get their needs met.
To get their needs met.
Every little girl needs to find ways.
And every little girl needs to find ways.
To get their needs met.
To get their needs met.
So I don't hate you.
So I don't hate you.
You're a good little girl.
You're a good little girl.
You have a good heart.
You have a good heart.
You're not bad for wanting connection and safety.
You're not bad for wanting connection and safety.
sickness as a protector.
Sickness as a protector.
I'm not bad for trying to get protection.
I'm not bad for trying to get protection.
So heart,
So heart,
I know that you learned that sickness could get you kindness
I know that you learned that sickness could get you kindness
and attention,
and attention,
but you're no longer a little girl,
but you're no longer a little girl,
and sickness isn't the best way to get your needs met.
and sickness is not the best way to get your needs met.
Heart, you're allowed
Heart, you're allowed
to get your needs met
to get your needs met
without sickness.
without sickness.
You're allowed
You're allowed
to be healthy
to be healthy
and still have a voice about what you want.
and still have a voice about what you want.
You're allowed to be healthy
You're allowed to be healthy
and still have boundaries.
and still have boundaries.
You don't need sickness
You don't need sickness
to be your boundary maker.
to be your boundary maker.
You don't need sickness
You don't need sickness
to have a voice.
to have a voice.
You don't need sickness
You don't need sickness
to hide behind.
to hide behind.
Body,
Body,
I know you've stored up a lot of neglect
I know you've stored up a lot of neglect
and a lot of aloneness.
and a lot of aloneness.
I give you permission
I give you permission
to let go of the pain and the suffering
to let go of the pain and the suffering
that you've stored up.
that you've stored up.
I want you to breathe in, and I want you to breathe out. And I want you to breathe in, and I want you to breathe out. And I want you to say, sickness,
Sickness,
I'm breaking up with you.
I'm breaking up with you.
I don't need you to hold me together.
I don't need you to hold me together.
I see this picture of your heart actually, and it's literally saying, if I'm not sick, she won't validate how much pain I've gone through. That like there's something about when you're sick and you can't do anything, that it's like you allow yourself to validate how hard things have been. And that like you are much more of a validator in sickness than when you should be able to just do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to speak to your heart. Jacqueline's heart, you're worthy of affection when you feel good. You're worthy of affection when you feel powerful. You're worthy of being validated. Your pain matters, even if you're not sick. Your pain matters. What you've gone through matters. The hard things you went through matter. All of that matters, whether you're sick or not. I break the lie that you're only allowed to feel things if there's a tangible external thing proving to people that there is pain. Like I actually see like you're like, but physical things prove that there was real pain. And I just hear Father God being like, oh, baby girl, there was real pain. You've had real pain. You've had really hard things that you've gone through. You've had really painful things that you've walked through, and you're allowed to validate that whether or not you're sick. You're allowed to validate whatever your capacity is, whether or not you're sick. What are you thinking or feeling?
I mean, that totally fits. Like, I can totally see that. And like, yeah, a lot of the emotional pain too that never got validated until I was sick. And yeah, like that totally fits.
So for homework, what I would give you is I would just have you talk to your heart every day and say, heart, I don't need sickness to get the care that I need. Or I don't need, for me, it was like, I had to learn how to have boundaries. So I was like, I'm going to learn how to have boundaries without needing to be sick. I'm going to learn how to, like, for me, it was like, I'm going to stop taking care of everybody. Like, because boundaries were, when I was sick, I was allowed to not take care of everyone. When I was sick, I was allowed to take care of myself. So I had to start telling my heart, like, heart, I'm going to take care of you. Even if you're not sick, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to have a voice for you. Even if you're not sick, you don't have to get to being sick for me to fight for a voice for you. And so I just start, and then being like, heart, I don't need sickness to get my needs met. I just start having a conversation, and then tell your heart, whatever it is that you're holding, if there is anything you're holding on to sickness for, you can let me know. If there is any reasons that you need, and like, heart, I want to learn to validate you whether or not I'm sick. I want to learn to have patience for you and set boundaries for you. It's the journey of just communicating to your heart that you want to learn, and then putting it into practice. So for me, like I said, I never felt bad setting boundaries with people when I was sick, because I'm like, it won't hurt your feelings. You know that it's not because I don't love you. It's because I can't. And so I had to work on, how do I set boundaries, not because I'm sick, just so that my body knows that my voice will speak up for it. So yeah. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. Like that totally makes sense. And yeah, the boundary thing totally fits too. Like, I know there's a lot to it, because I also got attention for being tough. And so it was kind of this double, like, I want to be sick, but then be really tough about it. And I want to get hurt and then be really tough about it, because that's when I'm going to get love and attention from everyone else.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's complicated, and it never means that we're bad because we are trying to survive. I think that a lot of people have very complex relationships with sickness. It feels pretty typical to me. And I can imagine that it'd be good for you to tell your heart, like, I'm going to let you off the hook, and I'm going to stop trying to be tough all the time. And I'm going to allow you to receive love when you feel good and when you don't feel good. And then I visualize feeling good and strong, but having boundaries and feeling valid, like my pain matters. And then I visualize being sick and feeling good and strong and feeling like I validate myself and I love myself. Like I visualize loving myself in both scenarios, so that I don't need one. I don't need to stay sick to get those needs met.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm also scared of, I guess, like right now I'm at my aunt's house because it got so bad. She was like, why don't you just come live here? And it's also that, like, probably the first time in my life where I just feel like someone's there and cares and loves on me. And so it's also this, like, I don't want to get better because then I have to leave. And I also don't know how to, like, it's like, no, we'll just stay sick because then I can just stay here.
Yeah. Well, have you ever talked to her about, like, hey, if I get better, is there an, like, if I got better, could I stay here for a while? I mean, like, that's just a real practical conversation to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hey, if I get better, could I still live with you for a little bit while I emotionally get better? What you can tell is like, you can give yourself permission to physically get better while you're still being put back together emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fear of having to leave, like it sounds like you're terrified of being alone. And if getting healed represents being alone, who would want to be healed?
Yeah, it's true.
So you want to be able to be like, and I'd even be like, hey, the better I feel, the more I can hang out with my aunt, or the more I can hang out with people and allow them to, like, it's not the only way. But I think probably what you're, Matt, I bet you're connecting to, I'm getting parented in some small way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've needed this my whole life. So what I would tell your heart is, heart, you're worthy of experiencing this parenting and this love, but you can get better and you can still receive this parenting and this love.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're really
Thank you.
precious.
Thank you so much.
You're
And by
welcome.
the way, I just wanted to say I did LFA, Father Series, Compassion Project, everything, and I've loved it. So like, yeah, I was pretty excited to be able to see you on here as well.
Oh, I love
And-
that. You're
Yeah.
adorable and so precious and just tenderhearted and smushy.
Aw, thanks.
I'm really proud of you. I can tell that you're fighting with all that you have. And I know what it's like to be dealing with all of your pain and needing comfort and needing parenting and having your body be out of whack. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
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 Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah. I will say that as I've gone on my process, I'd have waves of this come up and I would just cry it out, grieve it out, and then give my heart permission. And then a different wave of, I mean, I had to face so many reasons why sickness felt safe to me. And I just would own it and feel it and then release it and then go on the next journey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
We're going to go to the next person. Well, let's actually take a second. Anybody out there that is struggling with chronic sickness, why don't we just, let's see how many people that is. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, it's slowly loading. I can't see any faces. Are there a lot of hands or a little bit of hands? Can somebody estimate, like there's 5 people who are raising their hands? Taylor, can you see?
Everyone in the chat saying me, 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 me.
Oh, okay.
And there's not a ton of hands, but there's a few.
Okay. Well, let's just pray for people with chronic sickness. So, I'm going to have everybody with chronic sickness, disabilities, conditions, any of it. I'm just going to have you put your hand on your heart. And if that's not you, would you just, when you close your eyes, just pray whatever God tells you to pray for them in your head. So, Holy Spirit, we invite you for any other woman on this call that has emotional entanglements with sickness, any places where it feels safer to be sick or where sickness is a protection or where there's fear of letting go of it, any emotional places where, where it's become a protector, God, we ask that you would come in and you would comfort their hearts and their souls, that their body would no longer need to take the brunt of it. Any place that people have self-hatred that has manifested in chronic sickness, I ask that you would break self-hatred. We ask that you'd liberate bodies right now, God, that you'd liberate bodies from the weight and the pain and the sorrow and the suffering. And we release hope and joy into people's bones again, that there'd be life back into people's muscles, that there'd be freedom and wholeness. We release wholeness over every body here. We release peace over every body here. We release your kindness over every body here in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, next one. Let's do Alexis Cifuentes. I don't know how to say it.
Hi.
I hear your name. Are you wearing a cute little flower shirt? Is that, nope, that's not you.
No.
You're in a gray shirt. I've been seeing you on my screen, girl.
Oh, good.
How do you say your last name?
Cefontes.
Oh, what a good last name.
Thank you. It's Spanish, yeah.
Yeah, girl. Do you speak Spanish?
No, I do not. My dad does, though.
You sound like you do when you say your last name.
Yeah, well, my dad taught me well.
Okay. It says your dad is seeing you as your mom and you feel this tension. You're wondering if she should be okay with the fact that your dad doesn't see her the way you want him to. Can you explain that to me a little bit more?
Yes. So growing up in the household, my mom and dad just wasn't a good marriage at all. They fought a lot, like a lot, verbal, physical, not on his end, but on her end, she got physical. And me and my brother would always have to break it up. But in the midst of all that, they wanted us to choose. It felt like they wanted us to choose sides. And my mom, growing up, put a lot of expectations on me. And so I felt bad that if I didn't take her side, then I would get just a bunch of like, just, yeah, I would just feel so low. She would make me feel so low. And then, but even if I did pick my mom's side because I was scared of how she would feel, my dad would just look at me so differently. And then my brother took his side because he didn't want my dad to feel alone. And just growing up, I just felt like, now, okay, my dad's a good dad. I love him. We're good. But like, he's always supported me, like, and showed up for my cheerleading competitions and everything and provided for me. But I just felt a disconnect always in a love form, in a, like, I see you and I understand you type of way. And it always gets brought up in around the holiday season. It never fails where me and my dad just get into our worst fights around the holidays, because him and my mom had the worst fights around the holidays. So I just feel like that comes on to me now because my mom's not in our lives anymore. So now it's just, he gets really tense. So he takes it out on me around the holidays. And yeah, I don't know how to handle it or how to go about it, and I'm just now realizing all the pain from it when I'm going through this journey. And yeah.
What happened with your mom? Where'd she go?
So my mom was very abusive towards me growing up, and then it got physical when I was 14, and we got taken away from her. So
do you live with your dad? Did you live with your dad after that, or what?
I live with my papa.
Your grandpa?
Mm-hmm.
Your dad's dad or your mom's dad?
My dad's dad.
Did your dad ever leave your mom?
Not until like a couple years after.
Are you mad at him for that?
Yeah. That day when she abused me, I called him first and he said, "I'm at work right now. I can't handle this." And he hung up.
Okay. Have you ever talked with him the way you're talking with me about what it was like?
No.
Okay, how come?
I just feel like he wouldn't understand, and he's very, I don't know, it seems like every time we get to that point where we're going into a deep conversation, he shuts off.
And what does shutting off look like? Like he ends the conversation.
He just says, "Alexis, I can't handle this right now," and laughs at me, and he thinks I'm not serious.
Okay. So, can you give me an example of the last conversation that happened with?
Oh God. Like the last time we had a serious conversation about my feelings. Okay. That was like years ago.
How many years ago do you think?
Oh my God. Probably like 5 years ago.
Okay, great. How old are you?
I was 20.
Perfect.
Great.
This is great. It's
Okay.
going to be an easy for me to give advice and hard for you to do the advice scenario.
Oh, great.
So like I'll probably talk to your heart in a minute, but the most powerful thing you can do is have a conversation with them. And
Okay.
so the first thing that I would do is, when are you going to see him for the holidays?
Oh my God. Well, I live like around him, but like we don't see each other that much. But yeah, I'll see him around Christmas.
Okay. So I would, before Christmas,
Oh my
say,
God.
hey Dad, I
Okay.
need to have a conversation with you. I know you hate conversations. It's not going to be this horrible, deep, long, emotional conversation, but I do need to talk about some stuff that happened in my childhood because I want to have a good Christmas with you and I don't want us to fight.
Okay.
And then what I would tell him is, hey, my relationship feels really confusing with you because I felt like Mom forced me to take her side all the time. And I felt like every time I took her side, it was painful for you. And I didn't want to be taking her side. And I feel like that created a lot of division in our relationship and made you think things that weren't true. And I also felt like you maybe you see me like that or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I would start with that because that's a very low stakes part of the conversation. Like you're just like reliving stories. You're just retelling him about things and you're not telling him he failed. You're not telling him he did something wrong. You're literally saying, I feel misunderstood because I was so scared of Mom.
Yeah.
Like, for me, this is an easy first conversation because there's no blame. You're not even asking him to validate you and your pain. You're literally just saying, I want to be on the same team as you, Dad. And then I would say like, hey, I feel really sad that we fight a lot during holidays and I want to learn how to not do that. And I think that means that we need to start having more real conversations like this so that it's right now the only time we share real feelings is when we're yelling at each other. Or when where we share feelings is when we're intense with each other. I want to actually just be able to have calm conversations like this where we can talk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
What are you feeling as I say that?
Scared. Like I feel a lot of like my blood is rushing up to my face.
Yeah. You know what that tells me is that there's a lot of trauma in your childhood and a lot of pain, and that you feel so like it makes it sound like your relationship with both your mom and your dad were really high stakes. And like there was never a place for you to learn to have a voice. And so I'm really sorry. Why don't you close your eyes for a second?
Okay.
Precious Alexa, you're such a good girl. I'm so sorry that you got caught and destroyed in a marriage that was a war zone. I'm so sorry that over and over again you got dragged into the war zone and you got things taken out of on you and you got things put on you. And I'm so sorry that there isn't a place where you got to have your parents be safe for you. I'm sorry that they made you be unsafe with them. You needed a parent that could teach you how to share about your feelings and that could teach you how to use words and could teach you how to have conversations. And I'm so sorry that you're going to have to learn how to have conversations on your own. I'm so sorry that your mom and dad didn't know how to empower you to have a voice, that they only showed you yelling and screaming and hitting. And I'm so sorry for every place that your dad hates women and you felt like he hates you because of that. I'm so sorry for every place that your mom destroyed your dad and that he feels like you are the same as her. I bet it feels really scary. I'm sorry for the places you felt judged and like no matter how hard you try, you can't be seen for who you are. I'm so sorry, Alexa's body, that you lived in fear for so much of your childhood, that you were always on guard, that you had to get so many protectors, that you had to make sure that you were going to be okay. Alexa's heart, you deserve to have a voice and to get heard. Whether your dad can hear you or not, whether he can respond well or not, you deserve to have a voice. What are you thinking or feeling?
I just keep thinking about what his reaction is going to be and if it's going to be a defense, like he's going to get so offended. No matter, I just feel like he's just going to get so offended no matter what.
Okay, so close your eyes.
Okay.
Alexa's heart, I'm really sorry that you never saw confrontation done well and that it was always high stakes, that there was always so much intensity about it. I'm really sorry for how out of control that feels. I know that over and over and over again as a little girl, you saw that you'd never be heard. Your mom would never be heard. Your dad would never be heard. You would never be heard. Your brother would never be heard. There was a lie that was sold to you that there's no point in having a voice because no one will ever hear you. And it's not true. I give you permission to have a voice. I give you permission. Hello? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. My Zoom stopped. Sorry if you're crying or somebody's crying. I don't know. Okay, sorry about that. My computer kicked me off. Alexa's heart, you are made to have a voice. You're made to be heard. You're made to be seen. You're made to be known. And I can see that there's so much trauma. And so, precious body, I give you permission to come down into peace. I give you permission to come down into relaxation. We can find a way for you to work on having a voice and to still feel safe. You're safe. You're not that little girl anymore. I know as a little girl, you weren't allowed to walk away. You weren't allowed to have a voice. You weren't allowed to set boundaries. You weren't allowed to protect yourself. But you get to be protected. You get to be loved. You get boundaries. You get to walk away. You get to be a powerful woman now. I know that as a little girl, there was no way for you to be safe if mom and dad weren't happy. I want you to know that if dad's not happy, you can still be safe now. I want you to know that if dad doesn't want to have the conversation, you can still feel safe. I want you to know that if dad doesn't want to have the conversation, you're still worthy of love. What are you feeling?
I feel a little bit more like I can do this. Like everything's going to be okay no matter what.
What made you emotional?
When you said that, when you said that, um, when it came to confrontation, I could never like walk away from my parents
Yeah.
because of how they would feel and how they would react to me in return. And I just like just memories popped up where like I didn't feel safe ever at all when I was around them, when I was around like my own mom and dad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just brought up, and I didn't even realize until now that every time confrontation hit, like I have to confront people, or just with anybody, I have this like
terror.
Yes, and like this rage, and not rage, but this like shakiness in my body. Like I just feel it all over, and
Yeah.
like the blood rushes up to me, and I feel like I'm going to throw up.
You know that's a trauma response.
Yeah.
It's like a PTSD reaction. And it makes a lot of sense if that's what your childhood was like for you to have that. And you're going to have to relearn conflict. It's like, for those of us who grew up in families, I grew up in a family where I wasn't taught healthy skills. So I've had to relearn those skills. And it's part of reparenting. It's the work that we get to do to learn some life things that we should have learned from our parents, but now we get the part to be redeemed. So I think a couple things. I'd love for you for homework. I think it'd be so good if you got Complex PTSD by Pete Walker.
Oh, okay.
I think that it will explain your whole life to you, and you will understand who you are for the first time. And you'll be like, oh, all these weird things I do are actually because of this and this and this, and makes sense because my brain needed this and this and this. And it will, Nicole will. Yeah, girl. Complex PTSD by Pete Walker. I think it'd be very helpful for you. I also think there is an audio book. It's called Homecoming, and it's by who's it by? John. Let me see if I can find it. Homecoming by John Bradshaw. And it is again, you want the audiobook for that one because it's much better as an audiobook than book. And it's a 3-hour long thing. It's really easy to listen to. But I think it will help you start to recognize the little girl inside and what she needs and the journey of reparenting. That being said, your other homework, I'm giving you so much homework.
Okay.
But do it at your own pace if you want. This is one of the more important. This is the order. Complex PTSD is one of the most important, and this is the other most important. If it would it feel better to you to write your dad a letter and give it to him?
No.
Okay. Would it feel better if you invited somebody to be there for the conversation?
No.
Okay. You get to figure out what feels best to you. Okay. It sounds like just a one-on-one conversation sounds best.
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe write out a few bullet points on your phone so that if you get trauma brain, which can happen, where you can't think all of a sudden, or you get super confused, or you whatever, have it on your phone so you can go back to it if you need to.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And the conversation is one of the most important. It's good because it's part of taking your voice back. And so you have to go into it knowing he may not respond well, But if he responds poorly, you can leave and set good boundaries.
Yeah.
And you can have a voice. And so even if he responds well, you're getting to reparent yourself because you're getting to do what you never got to do as a kid.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody put your hand towards her. Dear Jesus, give her grace to be brave. And would you come and soften her dad's heart and give him the bravery to have the conversation with her? In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So I'd start with how you felt like you had to choose mom. And then I do that one first. And then if that one goes well, then I would do, sometimes it feels like you see me like mom.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
How many other people have confrontations that they need to do this holiday season that they are avoiding? Or let's just say that they have confrontations they need to do. We'll just do that one. Okay, let me scroll through and see. Oh, look at all these confrontations that need to happen. All y'all about to have some good family talks. Okay, well, let's just pray for everybody that needs that. I will say that a lot of people have the wrong idea about confrontations. They believe they're successful if the other person responds well, and that's never true. Confrontations are successful if you had a voice for you. And so I go into confrontations knowing, like, I mean, this happens to me all the time. I have a confrontation I have to do tomorrow, and I'm like, I'm doing it for me. If they respond horribly, it's fine, because my expectations aren't that I need them to heal me. My expectation is me having a voice for me is what brings healing to me. It's about reclaiming my voice. It's about having boundaries, or it's about sharing feelings, or it's about me. It's not it. My dad has responded well to confrontations, and he's responded horrible to confrontations. And in both cases, I felt successful both ways, because it was not about how the other person responded. So that's the first thing. The second thing you need to know about people doing confrontations is to have some plans. Know yourself. So do you freeze when you have confrontations? If that's you, then have some notes on your phone. Maybe set the conversation up like, hey, sometimes I freeze in conversations. So there might be a spot where I need to like go think and then come back and finish the conversation later. I'm just letting you know, like, set yourself up for success where you can have some boundaries, where you can always like go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom. You can always do things like, I'm always like, how can I set myself up for success in this? Don't have it at a restaurant if that feels hard to pay attention in a restaurant, or do have it at a restaurant if you feel like it'll be a safer place. Just kind of think through things that you think can add to the process. Don't worry about how they respond, and have compassion and feel proud of yourself no matter what direction it goes. The other thing I'll say is me and Justin have seen that typically parents either respond well to confrontation, or it takes confronting them about 30 times and then they respond well to confrontation. Every once in a while, there's some real a-hole parents who will never respond. But a lot of times, people are willing to respond to confrontation after they've seen it go on. Not that they've seen you like hit them over and over again, but they've seen like, oh, you're trying to create connection. Oh, you're trying to create like conversation. Oh, I can't avoid this forever. So I like a lot of my friends' families, the more they've said it, the easier it has been to actually go through. So just wanting to let you know. I saw a question here, but what about how they feel? I feel bad for them. I mean, I don't want to be mean to somebody, but my goal in a confrontation isn't that they walk away feeling perfect, because I can't control that. That's trying to control somebody again. My goal is that I'm honest in the most honoring way I can be. And that and my goal is that I can validate them, but also if my goal is to make people happy in confrontation, you can't ever do it. Because even when I've done everything right, and I mean everything right, people can have triggers that you don't even know exist. You know, if people completely ignore you and won't give you the space to address what you're feeling, then you can't talk through it with them. That's basically the end of that. I mean, that's one of the most painful things, I think, because it takes all the power away from you actually getting to, have a voice. So it's a real big bummer. But what about the parent who ignores your statement? I don't know what that means. You can ask that question again if you want, but I don't understand the question. Also, you matter. Their actions hurt you, and that matters, especially if you want real connection with them. Absolutely. How long do you fight for somebody that ignores your bid for connection? Well, I just make sure that it's actually a clear communication. Like, hey, I'd really like to talk through this with you. If you're open, I normally do like 3 times of an invitation. And the third time I say, like if there's no response, if there's absolutely none, I normally do about 3. That's not a magical number. It's just like what I feel comfortable with. But on the third one, I always say like, hey, I'm going to stop reaching out to you now because it seems like you're not wanting to connect. But just so you know, my heart is that I'd love to talk through this with you if you ever decide that you'd like that. But I'm not going to keep pursuing it anymore. I just kind of let people know what I'm going to do. I want it to be clear communication. Lots of people like say like, well, I called them 3 times. I'm like, but did you like text them and say, I actually want to talk through this? Or was it they don't know what you need? So I'm a big fan of clear communication. If they don't think your issue is valid, I mean, that just happens. Some people will be good to talk to. Some people, again, if my heart posture is I'm going in it to have a voice for me, I didn't get to have a voice in this area as a kid, or I didn't get to feel heard, or I want my little girl inside me to know that I'm going to stand up for her and take care of her and care for her. So for me, I'm like, if they don't think she's valid, then I'll go and process the rest of the pain without them. I had a circumstance that happened a couple years ago where they never were able to validate it. It did make it so that we couldn't really grow deep in friendship. So it like kind of cut that off, but it wasn't so much. So I had to go get healing and validation from other sources. Counseling, consulting, EMDR, other friends, were all a part of that process. I like this one too. Lacey says, I like to write letters to people I cannot have contact with and then burn them. That's a great way to do it. So, a lot of parents are defensive and don't respond well. And we can't make our parents do it, but we can invite them into things. We have a bunch of episodes on the Connected Life about confrontation with parents. If you want, you can just send them to your parents and say, let's do some of this. Okay, so did I pray for everybody doing confrontation yet? Nope. Okay, great. So Jesus, we just invite you to every person who has confrontation that they need to do, that your grace and your love and your would empower them to be brave. And God, that they would take the high stakes off. You're not going to do it well. You're not going to do it perfectly. And you get to practice, and that's okay. You're going to practice it, and you're going to get better at it every single time. You got to ask that you break off the expectation that they have to keep people happy, that it's their job to make everyone feel good. I ask that you break off the guilt that they have, where they feel like they just need to suck it up instead of having a voice. And I ask that you would take the high stakes off of them, knowing that they can get to healing whether or not the person responds well. And we ask that your comfort would come to every place where boundaries need to be set, where words need to be said, and that there would be literally divine moments where your presence comes and turns the conversation, where it's going one direction and it's feeling like a train wreck, and your presence just comes and changes the entire atmosphere, God, that people would pull on your presence and that they would see miracles. We release the miracles that me and Justin have had with our families, where it felt like they would never change and like it was the worst case scenario and we might have to cut them out of our lives forever, and then they became wonderful, incredible gifts to us and we were able to talk through things. We ask for that miracle to be done again and again and again, that family members would soften their hearts, that friends would soften their hearts, and there'd begin to be breakthrough. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, Tay.
All right. Thanks, Abby. Who loved having Abby tonight? Woo! So beautiful. Thanks for doing this. It was amazing. Loved it, loved it. We're gonna break out into breakout rooms for about an hour. So if you have to go or if you want to go, you're free to go. Abby, thanks again. And then, yep, I'm gonna put you in the breakout rooms and you guys can chat amongst yourselves. So have a good night. Mwah. What are you doing, Catherine?